And all right, so welcome. I'm very pleased to have you here for how to outline and write your personal story and why you need to. It's kind of an important process when we're looking at self-development. So first off, my name is Christopher D'Armani, and I'm going to be your host for today's experience. And the very first thing I want you to do, and I'll throw some slides up on screen here. The first thing I want you to do, and I'll make the slides work. Let's go for that. Is I want you to grab a pen and paper because I'm going to want you to take some notes throughout this. But right now I'm going to want you, awesome, Jeremy. What I want you to do right now is I want you to answer this simple question. Why is it important for you to be here doing this right now? We all lead extraordinarily busy lives, and yet you're here. So that's important, and I'd love to hear why. And then if you're feeling particularly courageous today, share it in the chat as well.
Okay. You want me to tell you or just put it in chat?
Just throw it in the chat, sure.
Okay.
And while you're doing that, I'll just move on. Until we deal with our past, we don't have a future. That's the cold, hard reality of the human mind and the human brain and the human experience. Until then, our past will continue to haunt us and relentlessly nibble away at our life, at our happiness, at our sense of self, and just keep trying to destroy us because all those negative things in our past need to get dealt with first. This is why writing your personal story is so incredibly, incredibly important, because we must face the truth of what happened to us, all of it, in all of its ugly bits. We must understand what happened to us as well. And we must understand on multiple levels what happened to us. You know, we also must heal the past trauma at every level. That includes the physical, the emotional, the psychological, and the spiritual. We need to do this internal work so we can live the life of our dreams. That's why we're here on GPS to Life Success. That's why we downloaded the app. That's why we're paying attention today, is because we know something's missing from our life. We need to figure out what that piece is and how to heal from it so we can just carry on and live that amazing life that we know is actually out there waiting for us. So with that brief introduction out of the way, I want to give you a proper introduction of who I am and what makes me the coach that's capable, has the authority to actually host this presentation. Excuse me. So my name, of course, is Christopher D'Armani, and I wrote my very first book when I was in high school. And I don't say that to brag. I say that because this is the very starting point, and it was utterly atrocious. It was really long. It was 88 or 90 typed pages. And my English teacher very kindly gave me a C- on it, solely because of the length, because it made no sense. It was completely horrible. I found it years ago, and I was utterly horrified. Now, thankfully, I've learned a lot since then. I've gone on to write a whole bunch of books. 50 so far, and I've got another one coming out next month. But it took us some time to figure out how to make all that happen. And many of those books became Amazon bestsellers, which is really, really a nice, fun thing for an author. And what I do today primarily is I empower nonfiction authors so they can turn their dream of writing a book into their published reality. And I love that work. But that probably brings up a question for you, and that simply is, why are you teaching this? Why are you here doing this? What is an author coach doing teaching self-development? Well, the simple reality is that through coaching other writers, I discovered one common theme throughout them all. For most authors, writing the book isn't the problem. Writing the book is really, really simple. All you need to do is sit down at the keyboard and bleed, to quote, I think it was Hemingway. Just sit down and do it. That's it. The real problem for the writers that I work with day in and day out is they need to figure out how to allow themselves to be vulnerable. And it's impossible to be vulnerable with someone else until you first learn how to be vulnerable with yourself, which is why we do all of this work. Until we're in that frame of mind where we're willing to trust others enough to be vulnerable with them, we'll never be able to tell our story. We'll never be able to tell it in a way that deeply resonates with people. We'll be able to get the surface stuff, but all the real stuff will keep eluding us, and then so will our ideal life. This is, without exception, the biggest challenge the authors that I work with face. One author, a good friend of mine, we had scheduled an appointment to help her get through the next couple chapters of her book. And at the start of the call, she says, we're going to turn this into a therapy session today because I got this crap that's going on. My life is falling apart in this area, and I just need some help with that so that I can help get my mind clear to the point so I can actually write. Clear mind is writing success is one of the things I like to say. And this is true, of course, for writers across all genres, whether that's fiction, nonfiction, memoir, doesn't matter. Everyone that I've ever worked with runs into the same problem. Allowing themselves to be vulnerable is the true challenge that any author faces. Because unless and until we do this inner work, we can't connect authentically with anyone. Not our friends, not our lovers, not our readers, none of them. The message won't be heard by the people that we care about most, the people that we most want to hear it, and the people who most need to hear it as well. We can't do any of that. So if that makes sense for you, please drop a "make sense" in the chat. And of course, if it doesn't, drop in 3 question marks because I'd like to know that I've missed the mark. Hopefully that's not true. But here's the thing. Wayne Dyer said it best. There is one grand lie that we are limited. The only limits that we have are the limits that we believe. Because our thoughts truly do create our reality. They really do. To paraphrase Henry Ford, whether you think you suck or you think you're amazing, you're right. It all comes down to what we believe. And what we believe gives power to our lives. So that's one of those things I want to deal with in detail a little bit later on. But first off, every human being has limiting beliefs. Every one of us. I don't care how successful you are or how, down in the gutter you are. Everyone has limiting beliefs. For mere mortals like me and perhaps like you, that typically manifests in things in lines that I tell myself, like, I don't know how to do this. Perhaps it's, I can't do this. And of course, if we're really, really brave, if we're going to be really courageous about this, I'm afraid to do this. It typically boils down to a fear on some level that needs to be dealt with and overcome so you can do the thing you need to do to move your life forward. And of course, dealing with the internal crap from ourselves, we need to do all of that before we get to the crap that other people have dumped on us and that we've incorporated into our own lives. Because as we were growing up, parents will tell us things, teachers will tell us things, our peers will tell us things, and they're not true. They're all lies. But we take this stuff on because, well, someone else said it, and clearly they must be the expert because why else would they say it? Whole bunch of reasons. But garbage that goes along the lines of, who do you think you are to do whatever the thing is you're trying to do, whatever the thing you express some desire to do? Who do you think you are to do that? Well, who are they to tell you you can't? The other thing is, you'll never do that. I know you. I've known you your whole life. I know you will never, ever do that because you never follow through on anything. Well, that's just one of those terrible, horrifying, negative beliefs that someone's dumping on you. That's not true. What you did in the past does not dictate what you do in the future. That's a simple concept that is true. Of course, then there's a really big lie. That's impossible. And that, of course, is garbage. Just because it's impossible for them doesn't mean it's impossible for you. I want you to hear that again. Just because it's impossible for them, it doesn't mean it's impossible for you. All of these statements, whether your own thoughts or someone else's garbage that you took ownership of for whatever reason, take a moment right now, grab your pen and paper, excuse me, and then write down the very first one that pops into your mind. Whatever that first limiting belief is that pops into your mind as we're having this discussion, write it down. And if a second one comes up or the third one, write that down too. These things are present and fresh in your mind in this moment. So take advantage of that. Get them down on paper where you can take a good hard look at them. And then if you're particularly courageous, share one or more of them in the chat, because sharing these thoughts helps drain them of their power over us. Once someone else knows the secret, it's no longer a secret, and then we can just simply move forward. One of the beautiful truths of life. So when someone says impossible, I want to share a couple of examples of why that's garbage. First off, everything is impossible until someone does it for the very first time, right? Once someone does it for the very first time, oh my goodness, the whole world figures out, wow, we were all wrong. So the first one I want to talk about is the 4-minute mile. The entire world knew that running a 4-minute mile was impossible. The human body simply could not be put to that kind of a stress to run that fast. Could not be done. The entire running world knew it and had known it for centuries. And then Roger Bannister woke up one day and went, you know what? I can do this. And he trained and he trained and he trained. And then one day in 1954, he did it at an official race. And it blew the running world apart. But here's the beautiful thing. Within weeks of him doing it, because he'd blown those doors of possibility wide open for everyone else, other runners did it too. All they needed was that belief that they could. And Roger Bannister delivered that for every single runner in the world. That's beautiful, right? Truly beautiful. Putting a man on the moon was impossible as well. There was no way that a human being can fly to the moon. We don't have the body parts to do that. We don't have the ability to breathe in space. There's all these things we don't have. President Kennedy didn't give a crap about any of that. All he wanted to do was to put a man on the moon before the end of the 1960s, before the end of the decade. That was his goal, is to put a man on the moon and bring him home safely again. And here's the really fun part about that story. When he made that speech, the technology didn't exist to do it. They had to go out and create it. They had to figure out a way. And because Kennedy inspired a nation to get it done, all those really bright people at NASA figured it out because they bought into the belief. They believed it was possible. They just needed to figure out the how. It was inevitable that they would do it. All that remained was the how. Think about your own life and put that thought into the context of your own life. What beliefs are you buying into that are holding you back? And what beliefs are you buying into that are helping you reach for the stars, like Kennedy did? And then one of my favorite examples is Steve Jobs. Excuse me. 1,000 songs in your pocket could not be done. You had to have a device, a record player, a CD player. The technology for that changed. But you couldn't put that in your pocket. It was simply too bulky. And then Steve Jobs decided, you know what? This is possible, and I'm going to figure out how to do it. Or at least I'm going to hire the right people who will figure it out to take my dream and turn my dream into a reality. And he turned the entire music industry on its head with the iPod, where you could store basically an unlimited number of songs in your pocket, take them wherever you went. It was awesome. Everything is impossible until someone does it for the first time. Everything is impossible until someone takes that dream that they have for something that seems unattainable in that moment, and then does all the work to turn it into their reality. So that's what we're here talking about today, excuse me, is doing the work required so that whatever your dream for your life is, you can turn that into your everyday reality. That's why we're here. That's why GPS to Life Success exists. It's the whole reason it was founded. And I want to thank Jeremy for that, because without his idea to make this thing happen, I wouldn't be here talking to you right now. But Napoleon Hill said it best: whatever your mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. I'll say that again. Whatever your mind can conceive and believe, you can achieve. Now, the big problem, of course, is that too often we don't believe it. We don't buy into the idea. We don't buy into the possibility for ourselves. And so we destroy our own possibility in our own lives. We simply don't believe it's possible. But now that you're here at this point in this training, you know it's a lie. You know all those thoughts are a lie. So take the fact that you know this is a lie and write down some thoughts about what is possible for you. Because now that you know you can choose to do anything you want. There is no limitations. The only limitations we have are the ones we put on ourselves, as Wayne Dyer said in the earlier quote. We all have a story. Excuse me. We all have a story, some belief about ourselves that we think is true. It's not, but we've told it to ourselves for so long, or we were told it by others but for so long that we simply, well, that must be true because it's always been true. There's always been said. I shouldn't say it's always true. And the really sad part is that we'll defend that nonsense to any and all comers, even against our own selves. Like, even though we know it's a lie deep down in our guts, we will still defend the nonsense to other people who are trying to build us up. We'll still tear ourselves down in the face of that, which is just utter insanity. It truly, truly is insanity. Most of that crap is built on mountains of lies that we chose to believe on some level. I'm not saying it was a conscious decision, but there was a decision that was made somewhere. And so you believe this crap. So today, right here, right now, it's time to believe something different. It's time to believe that you can achieve anything you want, everything you want. All it takes is courage. All it takes to change is the courage to make one simple decision and then follow that decision with immediate effective action. That's it. This is the point of writing our personal story. This is why we write our personal story. So we can face the truth of what happened to us. So we can change, and once we face that truth, then we can change those thoughts. We can change that single thought of about ourselves so we can stop sabotaging our life. One thought is all that takes. And of course, we want to look for the truth with grace, not judgment. We want to separate fact from fiction. What actually happened as opposed to what we believe happened, what we were told happened. I can't speak for you, but in my life, I was told a lot of crap happened to me. And that was just a misdirect for the crap that actually did happen to me. The person who perpetrated all the first pile of crap wanted to make sure I never looked at the first pile of crap and get to the bottom of it. It's probably true for you. There's probably people, manipulative people like you in your life as well. So we need to write out this personal story, and not what we think is true, what we feel is true, what we know in our guts is true, because the feelings will tell us the truth. Even though it may not make sense, our feelings will tell us the truth as we write this story out. We want to replace the lies that we were told with the truth about who we really, really are, right here, right now, today. We need to heal our wounded hearts so that we can live the life of our dreams, so that we can share the life of our dreams with someone that we care about. That's why we do this work. So that kind of brings us to the point of why we're here together today. Assuming you believe that I do, that you must write your personal story, the question that comes to me immediately to mind next is, well, what story should I write? A lot of crap happened to me. Well, which part of that do I want to start with? It's a great question. So again, I'll ask you, well, what story comes to mind first? And write that down, excuse me, and then also answer the question, why would you like to write this particular story? Write that down too. And then think about, which story have you healed from the most? Where have you made the greatest transformation in your life? And think about why you would want to write that story. And then think about which story is the most painful to you, which is the story that still makes you want to break down and cry like a baby as you think about it, or wants you to just crawl into a corner, crawl into a hole and pull the hole in after you, as I used to say. Write down why you would like to write that story and what you think you might gain from doing that. And then think about which story would be the most cathartic for you to write. Not the one that you've already been through all the healing for, but which one will you get the most healing from while writing it? Think about that. And then write down why you might want to start with that story. There's no right or wrong here. There's only information onto a page that's coming out in a truthful form for maybe the first time ever. And it gives you some options for what you want to do next. That's the beauty of this process. It gives you options. And a really, really important thing to remember is that this is just for you. This is for you and you alone, and you are in control of the entire journey from start to finish. If you want to share it with someone else, that's your choice. You're not under any obligation, no matter what someone else might say, that you must share whatever went on with you with them. That's not their right. They don't get to make that demand, because that is your personal choice, and it will always be that. So unless and until you trust someone with whatever that story might be, this is just for you. Write it down, store it in a locked container if you need to. Do whatever you need to keep yourself psychologically and emotionally safe, because this can be really scary work. It truly can be, but it's also really empowering work, and that's why I love doing it. Now let's get down to some of the nuts and bolts. Michael Showalter, I always have a hard time with his name, said it really well. He said, "I'm a big proponent of writing a great outline that avoids having you hit a roadblock." So this is why I always write, and then this is a lesson that took me 15 years to figure out. I always write with an outline because it simply makes the writing so much easier. Don't be me. Be better than me. Don't waste 15 years going, right? Outlines are going to cage me in. They're going to do terrible things. They're going to hem me in. They're not going to allow me to be creative. That's all garbage. That's all more lies talking to you. The outline is the thing that gives you power. It gives you structure. And within that structure, you have all this ability to do everything you want. And the structure is what gives it the form that's required, so it makes sense to someone else, or perhaps sense to you when you look back at it in 6 months from now. Writing with an outline is absolutely the simplest and easiest way to get the job done. So, sorry, having a little bit of trouble with the throat today. So an outline is simply the roadmap for your story. That's all it is. It contains all the major points of your story, including things like the good, the bad, and of course, the ugly. It needs to contain all of those things, whatever this particular story is. It's the journey of where you started. Ideally, that starts with what happened to you, through the entire healing process to where you are now. So it must incorporate the good, the bad, and the ugly to make that make sense both for you and anyone else should you make the decision you want to share it with them. It also contains all the minor points of your story, things like what happened to you, how did that impact you emotionally, psychologically, physically, and spiritually. You need to make sure that you have bullet points for all these things. And when you break it down in this sort of bulleted structure, all you're doing then is filling in the blanks. Adding in the lines that go between those bullet points. It becomes really, really simple to write your outline. So with all of those details in view, it's time to go through the process of drafting your rough outline. So if you haven't done that already, grab your pen and paper, or if you prefer, open a Word document, a new document on your computer, and then start listing out the events in chronological order. I'll give you a minute just to write out, let's say, 3 points, chronological order. Just knowing that you're going to fill in the space in between them. Start with what happened, specifically what happened to you, and then just do in a couple of bullet points. And then consider what are the negative effects that you suffered because of what happened, in whatever vein that comes to mind. List as many of these points as you can as well, because we'll need to address these throughout writing that story. Whatever the negative effects that you suffered are from whatever it is. Did you have a physical reaction to these events? If so, make a note of that in your outline. Did you have psychological issues arising because of the trauma that happened or whatever the event was that happened? If there was, list those as well. Now, I can guarantee you there were emotional reactions to it, so I want you to make sure you write those down in as much detail as you can as well. Because when you're really detailed with all of these sections, it simply will make the writing so much easier later, because you'll have already made that first brain dump, if you will, getting the crap out and shining some light on it, maybe for the first time. And that might feel really, really scary. Just know that that's okay. That's part of the process. Because until we shine the light on these things, there's no way we can heal from them. And that's kind of why we're doing this. So what was your emotional reaction at the time? I want to break this down to 3 other points in time as well, because this is also important. What was your emotional reaction to it at the time it happened? Write that down on a bullet point. And then what was your reaction to it as you were going through the healing journey from it? Because it's probably going to be different. And then now, looking back on it with hindsight and all those great tools, what's your emotional response to it today? It could cover a whole gamut. It could be anger, it could be rage, could be compassion, it could be gratitude. I despise a lot of what happened to me when I was a child. But the catch-22 of that is that I wouldn't be who I am today, making the impact in the world that I'm making today, if that didn't happen to me and I didn't heal from it. Because no matter who did whatever to me, it was a great story I heard in AA many, many years ago. A parent was being confronted by their child, their adult child, and the child was saying, "It's all my fault, all your fault that I'm this way." And the parent calmly said, "Well, you're right. I may be responsible for every single problem you have in your life today, but you're the only one that can fix it." That story's always stuck with me, and that was 25 years ago. I've never forgotten that, because it was that little story that I heard in that meeting that day is the thing that turned my life around. Yeah, they did a bunch of horrible crap. I'm the only one that can fix it. So I want you to really get that, because it's true for you, it's true for me, it's true for every single one of us, that it need to heal from the crap that went on when we were kids or whenever the events happened. And just remember that it's going to be different. Your emotional response to it is likely going to be different at every single one of those stages. And whatever it is, just know that whatever it is absolutely fine. It's okay. Because what you feel is what you feel. What you feel isn't right or wrong, it just is. And that's another great lesson that I had to learn as well, because I'd been made to feel I was wrong on so many levels for so long. I thought that whatever I felt must be wrong because so-and-so said so. All garbage. Took a while to get through that. Really grateful that I did. So looking back at the lessons of your life, looking back at the events of your life, what lesson or lessons did this particular event teach you? What was the gold that came out of this? What was the silver lining of that cloud, perhaps? Excuse me, is another way to put it. Look for both positive and negative responses, reactions. Things like lack of trust, lack of faith, lack of feeling, lack of taking care of yourself. Whatever the negative is, also look for that corresponding positive. Because at certain points in your life, you're going to discover, oh my goodness, I'm actually doing something different now. And that's a really great thing. It's a great thing to acknowledge, a great thing to accept about ourselves. And of course, finally, I want you to consider, how do those lessons drive your life today? Because if you learn the wrong lesson, you're probably on the wrong road. So what lessons do you need to take from what happened and the lessons that you're actually living your life by today? And what do you need to do to transform them? That's all stuff that gets to come out as you're writing your personal story. Figure out what you did to overcome them. If you've overcome whatever some of those negative lessons are. If they're positive, how did you get to that point of embracing the positive effects of it? And how do you embrace and maintain that in your life today? Because if you can embrace and maintain a positive stuff in one area of your life, you can do it in any area of your life. And so once you're finished going through this exercise, you'll have a really solid beginning for your outline. And as you begin to flesh this stuff out, your outline will simply grow and expand and become bigger and bigger as you fill in more pieces of the puzzle. And the beautiful part about writing from an outline this way is you can start anywhere. If you're focused on the issue that is in chapter 3, write chapter 3. Chapters 1 and 2 will wait, It doesn't matter where you start, because you already know where the ultimate beginning of the story is and what the ultimate end is. And with those two guideposts in place, where you start in the middle, completely irrelevant. Now it's time, of course, for my favorite part. And I like to call this manuscript math. I love this. Because one of the questions I get asked all the time, especially doing this particular inner story work, is how long will it take to write my story? The simple answer is it depends on 3 variables, and you control all 3 of those variables. That's the beautiful part. Every single one of these is in your control. Number 1, how many words do you want this thing to be? It's always a really great idea to set a sort of a word target that you want to hit. And I'll get into some of that in a moment. Number 2 is, how many words do you write per hour? Simple number, and there's an easy way to figure that out. We'll get to that in a moment as well. And then, of course, number 3 is, how much time can you spend on writing every day? And I do this by hours just because it makes the calculations easier. So with those 3 values in place, then you can do something really, really cool. And that's to grab my manuscript math calculator, go to christopherdiarmani.net/manuscript math, and you can download what you're going to see right here. And I should probably have tossed that in the link. I don't know if I can. Let me find the Zoom. There we go. My apologies for not having that all ready to go earlier. I had the thought and then it ran away. So, only I can learn to spell. That should work. And maybe I'll click the link just to make sure. No, I couldn't spell my own name. Awesome. One moment. And let's try and see if I can spell my own name correctly now. And I still, oh, I see what's happened. All right. Bear with me while the author coach learns how to write his own name. Which really, really is rather amusing. Truly amusing. There we go. All right, so ignore the first 2 links. Use the third, the third one, and maybe I'll go back to that screen just for a second. So anyone watching the replay, and oh, it's actually still on the screen. Yeah, it did move forward. So there you go. That's the link to download the calculator. And when you open that up in Excel or whatever your spreadsheet program is, you'll see something looking similar to what you see on your screen. Simple things. So the first thing we want to determine is, how many words do we write per hour? And the simple thing that I do for that is I set a timer for 15 minutes, and I write just free-form stream of consciousness type thought for 15 minutes. And I do that exercise 4 times, and I slot those numbers in for each of the 4 times. So in this example, I'm using 100 words in 15 minutes. You're probably going to write a lot more than that. This just makes a really simple calculation. So when you fill in all 4 parts of your writing, your timed writing sessions, then it calculates the words that you write per hour. That's a simple calculation. And then you can put in the number of hours you can write per day. In this example on the screen, it says 1, but you can put 2 in that to double whatever your output is. And so your words per day, based on writing at the speed you write, for 1 hour a day, you're going to write 400 words per day. Really straightforward math, right? So if your manuscript length, your target length for your manuscript, your first draft, is 3,500 words, then writing your story is going to take you around about 9 days. Yeah, 8.89 days. So now you have certainty about how long this will take, assuming that you show up every single day and do this. And the fun part is, of course, that if you simply double the hours you write, you cut that time in half. If you double the words that you write in each of those 15-minute sessions, you'll cut your time in half. It's a really, really fun thing to see what's actually possible. So if you're writing a complete full-length book, that's going to be probably, I don't know, 20, 30, 50, 80,000 words. But for writing this first personal story, I think 3,500 words is a really great place to start, because it's not an overwhelming thing. It's one story, beginning to end, and everything that's in between. And it'll take you a little more than a week, probably, maybe 7 days or so to write it. And it just makes it doable. Again, I'm all about kicking open the doors of possibility. It's really, really important, because until we believe it's possible, we can't do it. We'll always throw up roadblocks in our own way if we don't believe it's possible. So that's why I love Manuscript Math Calculator, is because it proves anyone doing it at this speed can complete their book in that much time. It's all laid out right there. And I love that. So if you work through the exercise that we were just going through, you'll have a rough draft of your outline. You'll want to go through and refine that some more later. But for now, let's move on to one more point. Is that the fact is the manuscript math calculator allows you to know exactly how long it'll take you to write that first draft. So, and that's just based on your writing speed. So now it's time to commit, make the big commitment, the big scary commitment to this deadline. If the number is for you the same as what I showed in that example, in 9 days, you'll have your first draft written. So what I want you to do right now is go to your calendar, go to your scheduler, whatever that is that you use to track your appointments, and write down 9 days from today that your first draft will be finished. Now that might terrify you a little bit, but it's really, really important to schedule this on this deadline on your calendar. Just like you do with any other appointment in your life. If you're meeting with Susie tomorrow at 3 o'clock, you probably write that down on your calendar so you don't miss the appointment. Or if you have a job interview, you're going to put that in your calendar because that's really important. So is this. So put it on your calendar. So there might be alarm bells going off in your mind now. And if there are, that's okay. It's kind of normal and natural for that to happen, especially the very first time that you're faced with this possibility. Because your mind has already been expanded to a point where it's like, you're out of your comfort zone, I guess is a great way to phrase that. And so while you're outside of your comfort zone, take advantage of the power that exists there, that doesn't exist when you're inside that terrible little place. I call the comfort zone the place where all my dreams go to die. Because whenever I'm inside that place, I'm not willing to take chances. I'm not willing to do the hard work that's required to take those things that I really, really want for my life and turn them into my reality. I won't do it. I'll sit on the couch, I'll flick through the channels, I'll watch football, I'll do whatever. The beer is always cold in the comfort zone, it just always is. Fake beer for me because I don't drink alcohol, but whatever the drink of your choice is, it's always going to be perfect in the comfort zone. Outside the comfort zone, maybe a little less so. It might be colder because you don't have all those warm, fuzzy blankets, but it's also the only place where you can actually make true, real change in your life, true lasting change in your life. And that's the point of GPS to life success, GPS to life success. There. The whole point of this entire app, this entire program, is to make long-lasting, permanent change in your life so that you can take those dreams you have and turn them into your everyday reality. That's what I'm all about. That's what this program's all about, which is why I love being a part of it. So acknowledge, of course, that these fears, they're normal and natural, but don't let them rule your life. Don't allow them to stop you from making this commitment. Because the thing that we're talking about here, your future, this is the opportunity to turn your future into whatever you want it to be. So don't let your temporary fear in this moment, excuse me, just because, oh my goodness, Christopher told me to do something and I've never done that before. Well, there's all kinds of things we've never done before. We still go ahead and do them. So make this one of those things that you make the commitment to do it. Even though you're scared, even though it might terrify you a little bit, there's really great stuff on the other side of that fear. Really great stuff. So make this commitment, write down this date on your calendar, and then do the hard work to make sure you get there. Did you meet that commitment? It's on the other side of your fear that you might feel this for a moment. It's when you write this down in the notebook, write it down in the notebook if that helps. Writing down the fears is always useful. Because when we write these things down in front of us, whether it's on a piece of paper with a pen, whether it's on a computer page on the screen, once it's out there in the world on a piece of paper or on that screen, it's now got the light of truth shining upon it, and we can face it. And until we face this crap, it'll never change. So that's so very important. So if you do have any of these thoughts, just take a deep breath and just let them go, They're not you. They don't belong to you. They're just nonsense that's rattling around inside there. So just take a deep breath and let it all out. And then carry on with doing whatever you need to do. Because my belief is that if you're here watching this long, this is a path for you. That this is something that is really important to you. You must do this because you want to live that life of your dreams. You want to turn your dreams into reality. You want to live that life that you deserve. And you know that this is one avenue that's going to help you get there. So do this one simple thing. Write down this deadline. I know I'm harping on this a lot, but it's the easiest thing to not do, because it takes you literally 2 seconds. And it's really easy to blow off the things that don't take any time at all. But this one simple act could be the thing that turns your entire life around. So take the 2 seconds and do this, please. Make this appointment with your destiny. Do the work that's required to keep that appointment, and do what most people don't. Show up every single day and make sure that you meet that deadline. I coach a lot of authors. There's stats out there that are really quite terrifying. Of the number of people who say they want to write a book, which is about 85% of people in America, only 3% ever do it. So the reason they don't is because they're scared. They allow fear to stop them. They allow their negative thinking to put up the roadblocks that they don't get over. And it all starts with making this very simple, short deadline. It's a week away. You can do anything for 7 days. It ain't going to kill you. I don't care what it is. If people can survive in a concentration camp for 4 years on basically no food and no shelter, no anything, we can certainly last for, 7 days in the comfort of our own home, writing our own personal story. Sure, there's going to be some psychological stuff that we have to go through. That's normal and natural. So expect it's going to happen. So make that the psychological safety zone for you, because it's probably going to show up. So because you know it's going to show up, you can take the steps that are required to take care of yourself through it. Now, both Dina Mitchell and Jeremy Lesky will tell you this is really, really true. It's normal and natural to feel a flood of emotions as you face the truth of what happened to you and as you start writing it out. So whatever you feel, good, bad, somewhere in between, whatever it is, write it down. Write it down. Because you're in the process of letting go of all these things. Before that, you need to acknowledge it. Write it down, acknowledge it. Be grateful for it, because you wouldn't be in the position you are today without it. And even though that might be a painful place today, it's only because that you went through this stuff that you're in this place today where you can actually change your entire life, where you can turn everything you wanted into your everyday reality. And I'm all about that. I love taking someone's dream and helping them turn that into a reality, because there's so much empowerment there that I can show you how to do this one time and you can do it for the rest of your life. It's like, you can give a man a fish or you can teach him how to fish. At one end, there's the same results. The guy's eating. But on the second one, the guy's not self-sufficient. The guy's self-sufficient. He's not dependent upon anyone else. And ultimately, that's what I want for you. I want you to be self-sufficient so you can do this exercise whenever you need to help you get through whatever the next thing that rises up for you is. Because if there's one thing that's true about self-development, self-improvement, dealing with our past, new level, new devil. There is always some deeper level we need to go to heal at a deeper level so that we can go to a greater height. Because the fact of our life is we can't go to that Mount Everest that we want to go to until we go to the bottom of the Marianas Trench. Can't be done. Our minds don't work that way. Our brains don't work that way. We need to be willing to face all the terrible stuff in all its gory reality so that we can experience that massive, massive joy when we're standing on the top of Mount Everest with our hands over our head going, wow, I actually did this. For a minute there, I was a bit scared I wouldn't make it, but oh my goodness, I'm standing here and look at the view. This is the stuff that's in front of you, ahead of you, waiting for you. You want to take on this challenge. It truly, truly is. So I got a couple of final thoughts that I want to go through just before I take some questions from you. Number one, structure is your friend. I know we've gone through the outline process, but just know this. The more detailed you can make your outline, the easier it's going to be to write your book, write your story. The easier. The outline just makes it all simple because it takes away the one thing that stops most people. What do I write next? You have the answers laying on the piece of paper right in front of you. What do I write next is, well, whatever's next on the list to be written. Or if you want to jump around, do that too. But there's always something, you always know what to write. It's never a question. So the same thing, I want you to apply that same principle to your writing sessions. Structure there is also your friend. So schedule your writing appointments with yourself and then do the really, really important thing. Keep those appointments. It's arguably the most important appointment of your entire day. Keeping the appointment to write out your personal story so you can meet that deadline that you set when you did your manuscript math. Won't take long, but it will take a lot of commitment. It will take a lot of courage, because as others will tell you, dealing with some of this stuff, especially if it's the first time or near the beginning of this process of healing, it's going to dredge up a lot of garbage. It's going to feel really, really uncomfortable. But it's what I talked about. When you're outside of that, outside of your comfort zone, that's where all the true healing, all the true growth is. That's where it all takes place. It can never take place while you're trapped in that place where it's warm and comfortable and cozy and someone's delivering you all the stuff that you might ever want. You can't grow in that kind of environment. So I want you to set the deadline. I want you to make writing appointments for yourself. I want you to schedule those appointments and show up. And here's the most important point of all of this. Do this whether you feel like it or not. Because how you feel about doing it is completely irrelevant. It makes no difference. It doesn't matter. The odds are really, really good that resistance is going to show up. It's going to rear its ugly head and it's going to try and stop you, because that's what resistance does. That's what our negative mind wants to keep us in that comfortable, safe place. That's not where you want to live. You want to live in the place where it's exciting, where new things are happening, where you're embracing new challenges every single day. And that's outside of your comfort zone. And your daily writing habit is absolutely your best defense against this garbage that's going to try and stop you. It's only an hour a day. Literally only an hour a day. And yet when you schedule that appointment, when you keep that appointment, whether you feel like it or not, you'll get it done. Guaranteed. I've written and published 50 books using this very system. It really, really works. And I think the fastest I've ever written and published a book was 16 days. I did a book recently where I wrote from scratch with an outline to published in 21 days. But I wrote a series a few years back, a series of 7 books and 4 workbooks. And I did that in 90 days. And so actually my 21-day book was really slow compared to that. Now, I don't advise doing that all the time, but there are times, there are books, there are writing projects where setting a really, really insane deadline makes a lot of sense. Because when you set those things and you set those challenges before you, you will rise to meet the challenge. You could set a year to write this story, and guess what? You won't do anything until near the end of November. So why waste 11 months of your life? Just skip to December. Do that right now. Sit it down, get it done, and do it right now. That's all it takes. Procrastination is a real thing. There's a super simple way to keep moving forward, though. Aside from setting the appointment, aside from keeping the appointment, whether you feel like it or not, here's a really simple tool that I use, not as much now, but I certainly used it a lot in years past. Make the decision that you're going to write for 2 minutes. You can do anything for 2 minutes. You can probably hold your breath for 2 minutes if you really, really had to. But every action begins in the mind. Every action begins in the mind. So make the decision to write, and then follow that decision with immediate effective action. And what does that look like? Really simply, set a timer on your smartphone, or grab I love little sand timers from the dollar store. Grab one of those. Turn it over and start writing. And you only have to write until that sand is gone or the timer goes off. Now, here's the beautiful thing. You make the decision, you start the timer, you take a deep breath, exhale all that crap, put your fingers on the keyboard and you start. You just keep writing. Doesn't matter what you start with. The very best scene I have ever written in my life started with, I have no effing clue what the scene is about. I have no idea why these 2 people are in it. I have no idea why the body's lying over there in the corner. No clue. So I wrote all that down. I literally wrote, those are the first sentences that I wrote in that day in that first draft. But as I wrote that out, all the stuff that I felt I didn't know, things came to me, ideas came to me, creativity just flowed like mad. And I wrote for 90 minutes straight, and it felt like 30 seconds. And at the end, I had this amazing scene. So just get started. Getting started is going to be where the most resistance is, because once you're started, you have momentum. It's hard to stop momentum. So you just do the simple thing. As I like to call it, I lie to myself for 30 seconds so that I can get started. That's all it takes. And then one of the things that happened for me when I was using a timer with sound, I've since gone to the egg timer so I don't hear anything, it just runs out. But when I was using sound, what happened is that I'd become so engrossed in what I was doing inside 120 seconds that I would forget that I set the alarm, and it would actually surprise me. It would go off and I would, oh, what's that noise? It's like, oh, I guess it was doing, the exercise was doing its job. Awesome. And I'd carry on, right? Now, if all of this sounds overly simplistic, trust me, it's really for a point, because writing really is simple, but we can build it into this thing that's really, really hard. And I won't blow smoke up your butt. Some days sitting down to write is tough for a variety of reasons. Like the day that my client and friend phoned and said, look, I just really need some help with my life today so that I can get my head clear enough to write. That's what happens sometimes. So it may take a little while to get through some of the garbage, deal with those negative thoughts, and just write them down, deal with them, and then move forward. If it takes you 10 minutes to get started, because you got crap to clear out of the way first, fine, grab your timer and start it once that's done and go, and write until the timer goes off. I can't really stress enough how important it is to do this whether you feel like it or not. Because if I wrote only when I felt like writing, I think I'd be dumped by a lot of clients. Because I work for a nonprofit organization, as a matter of fact, I was on the phone with them today. And they have specific requirements for me. Then sometimes those requirements are I'll get a phone call at 10 o'clock at night saying, look, I know that this isn't really unfair, but I have to have this piece for a press conference I'm holding in the morning. Can you do it? Because he's in Toronto, I'm here. I get a three-hour jump on him. And so I'll do that through the night, because it's whether I feel like it or not is not important. That I do the work, that's what's important. And the same is true for you. Whether you feel like it or not, I don't care. You shouldn't care either. Just know that this is the thing that's important to do, and do it. Because the time will come very, very quickly, and it won't take long that your brain will realize that, oh my goodness, at 4 o'clock every day he sits down and writes, whether he feels like it or not. Well, I guess that's just what we do at 4 o'clock every day. And the resistance will go away, because you've trained yourself that, well, this is just what I do when the clock strikes whatever the number is for you. So the mechanics of writing your story, of course, are very, very simple. It's the emotions that you go through that could be quite challenging. So be prepared for a bit of an emotional roller coaster, and just enjoy the ride. You know, it's part of the process. So don't fight it. If you fight it, it's just going to feel worse. Embrace it. Just realize that you're going to have some of these roller coaster things going on, and just enjoy the ride as best you can, and know that that's just your path to get through it. That's all it is. Very simple. And I can't encourage you enough to do this. Reach out to someone that you trust for guidance. Now, you're part of GPS to Life Success, so you have access to a whole bunch of really great coaches. We're all here to help you on this journey, whatever your path might be. Just because I'm the one teaching this particular process doesn't necessarily mean that I'm the person that you want to talk to about how to go through it. You've got the skills, you've got the video that you can watch anytime, but it might be some other coach that you resonate better with. Great. Go to them. Use them to the best of your ability to help you get through this process. The who is not important. The getting it done is what's important. So find the person you feel most comfortable with, and then use them as a resource to help you. Like if you're having a struggle getting started one day, we'll just get a hold of whoever the person that you trust most is and say, look, can you just walk me through why I need to do this again? Or what is the 3 steps I need to do just to get started? Because I'm having a real tough day today. That's it. Just reach out for the help when you need it. As I said already, there's a ton of really great coaches here at GPS to Life Success. Life Success. Why do I have so much trouble with that today, Jeremy? Reach out to any one of us. That's what we're here for. We want to help. We want to serve. We want to make sure that you get on this path of healing, and you stay on this path of healing, and you turn those dreams you have for your life into your everyday reality. Because you can. We all can. We're not sitting in the place we are today because we didn't do this work. We're only sitting in this place today because we did the work, and we're still doing the work. I still use this very process in my own life all the time, because new level, new devil, new crap comes up. But please do the work. Nothing is going to change unless you change. Nothing is going to change unless you do the work required for you to change. So you can listen to this video and go, wow, that was really great. I love that. And then never do a thing. But don't be surprised that your life doesn't change. Because it's only through that hard work, stepping out of the comfort zone, stepping out of that place where everything feels safe to you. Feeling safe is the absolute worst thing you can do if you want to actually lead the life that you have in your dreams. Absolute worst thing you can possibly do. Embrace the uncomfortable zone. Embrace the space outside that comfort zone that you have, because that's where all the really amazing things happen in your life. Every single one of them, without exception. And writing your story, I'm an author coach, so of course, if the only tool you have is a hammer, everything is a nail. Well, I'm a writer, so for me, the solutions are always written. That's just how my brain works. It's how it works for me. So if that works for you as well, embrace this tool, use it, and then use it repeatedly. This is not a one and done kind of thing. This is something you're going to want to do over and over and over again. So with that, just know that the road to your ideal future is out there. It's waiting for you. Yeah, it goes through a few construction zones. There might be a couple of ditches that you got to go into and get hauled back out of. There might be some twists and turns along the way. That's normal and natural. But this is the road to your ideal future, going through all of this crap. It's the only way to get there. And if you want some structured assistance with the writing portion of it, just the writing portion of it, not, tell me how to do it. Just you need some outside accountability to make sure you show up at those scheduled writing sessions. Then I would encourage you to join me for Writing Power Hour. For me, that's every day at 4:00 Pacific. It's really, really simple. All we do is we get together on a Zoom call just like this, and at the top of the hour, we talk about, for 30 seconds, what do I want to accomplish in this hour? What part of my story do I want to get done today? Or whatever the creative thing is you're trying to do. And we work together for an hour, and at the end of the hour, then we come back and say, well, was I successful? Did I complete what I thought I could? Or did I do more? It's a really great thing. Really great thing, because it helps you build that daily writing habit until it's ingrained in you enough that you can build it on your own. My job is to get you started. That's the beauty of this path. So if that sounds like fun, go to writingpowerhour.com and you'll find all the details there. Now, the second thing is that one of our great coaches here is Dina Mitchell. And she's writing right now, getting ready to put the next edition of her Scars to Stars series book out. So if you're in a place where you feel comfortable writing a story and sharing it, then I highly encourage you to reach out to Dina. And you can do that with the link that's on the screen, ChristopherDiarmani.net/tell-your-story. And that will take you to Dina's website, where you'll find out what the process is that she's walking people through and why it's really, really empowering to be a part of a multi-author book like this, especially when you're trying to heal your own life and share what's worked for you, some of the pitfalls that you found you want to avoid. It's a really great process to share your story in a very healing, cathartic environment. Highly, highly encourage you. If you're in that place where you feel comfortable enough to share it and uncomfortable enough to know that, oh my goodness, I really should do that. I'm terrified, and yet I know it's the thing I need to do. Dina, you couldn't be in better hands with Dina. So I highly recommend you to if you're in that place, check that out as well. So thank you for being here. And if you have any questions, please unmute yourself and fire away. I'd love to hear.
Fantastic. Do I need to put my hand up?
No, not today. We have there's few of us here, and I can figure it out. Go for it.
It's fantastic, man. No, thank you very much for this. There's a couple things that really stood out to me. The first thing, when you were asking earlier about some of the questions and doubts that we have in our mind that hold us back from really going forward and achieving what we want to do with writing. And I put in chat one of them, and I don't mind sharing this with people, that one of the things is that I don't feel like I have enough knowledge. And that actually kind of leads into the second one, which is where I'm comparing myself to other people out there. There's a lot of people out there that have plenty of book knowledge and can spit out all these facts and all these different things. And I sit there and I look and I go, wow, I don't have all this knowledge. I haven't read 10 million of Tony Robbins books, plus all of Grant Cardone's, plus of all these other books like this person has. Who am I to share my story and write about this? But then I realized that my story is completely unique, and my experiences is what stands me apart from the people that have that knowledge. I have my own knowledge. I learned it in a different way. And that's why I got to stop comparing myself to somebody else. And that's one of the hard things that trips me up a lot. So, it's really good that I wrote that down because it's something
Good.
that's a constant reminder, because it is one of the things that I look at. I'm going, we've developed this app. We've done all these wonderful things. We're building something that's magnificent. And again, when we're doing this, I'm comparing myself to somebody else, and it's keeping me back from doing what I really need to do. And so, very insightful for anybody out there. I definitely encourage that you do write that down. What's holding you back? What are some of those things that are discouraging? And there's so much other information in here that was absolutely amazing. I don't know if you guys saw the smoke that was coming up from the pen to paper that I had going here, because I was taking all these
Awesome.
notes. I don't think I've written this much in a notebook in the last year combined. So this is great, and it's great to put it in. And the other thing that really stood out to me is what's possible for me.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's really a big thing that we need to understand. And I love how you talked about going to the moon, the 4-minute mile, those are things I
All impossible
remember,
till
all
someone did it.
impossible until somebody did it. And, and I've had numerous times in my life where something like that has happened.
Yeah.
And, but one really stood out to me, and it wasn't my story,
Hmm.
and it wasn't some dramatic story. What it was I was helping somebody one time. They had this thing where, those inflatable games and different stuff like that that people have. And there was this obstacle course. And I remember I was helping them run one. And there was these kids are racing, and I'm sitting there cheering them on. And I remember this little kid that was trying to go through, and he's on this climbing part of it, and he just couldn't get up. And I'm behind him like, you can do it. I'm cheering him along. I'm almost like a drill sergeant. Come on, put that foot up. We can go. You can do this. And it was incredible. The kid was wanting to give up, and he wanted to give up so many times. And I was there, and I was pushing through. Come on, you can do this. Put that foot up there. You can do it. And when he finally got to that top, and he overcame that, and it took
Yeah.
him a while to struggle. The next time he got on that obstacle course, he just whipped up that ladder like it was nothing.
And I'll bet you
And
there was a whole lot of joy expressed once he made it up that very
oh
first time,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. I mean, it was amazing the joy he
Yeah.
had, and it just showed you it wasn't the physical ability, it wasn't anything, because that second time he was able to do it quickly. It was that whole mindset,
Yeah.
and it was that he couldn't get it done. And so that story, like I said, it wasn't something major, but at the same time it was. In that
For him, it
moment, it
was.
was like, well, it was
For
for
that
me,
kid, it was
obviously, and
major.
it impacted me as well, as you see. And I've gone through a lot, and the story I've had, but
Yeah.
to share that. So definitely awesome that you shared that. So of course, I guess this isn't more questions, it's just kind
Well,
of me
the thing, just
saying
going
that's
back to
what's
the question you
amazing.
asked at the very top there, Jeremy, who am I to write this story? Who am I to write this book?
Yeah.
The better question is, who are you not to? Because I want to share a really simple truth with you. There is someone out there who has gone through what you went through, and they're still stuck in the mud. They're still mired in all that crap, and they need your book. They're literally searching for, desperately seeking the book that only you can write, the book that only you can write in the way they need to hear it. That's who you are. So hold on to that thought. There is, even if it's only one person in the entire planet, that person is out there right now looking for you, looking for your story, because they need the solution that you offer. It's really that simple.
I
And where do you
love
think
that.
Tony Robbins started? He started with nothing. He started by being
Yes.
kicked out of his house by his parents, right? He literally didn't have anything. And yet he knew he was very blessed in terms of he knew at a very, very early age what to do to get to where he wanted to go. I can't speak for you, but for me, that took a few minutes. It didn't happen in my teens. It took a couple of minutes longer than that. Now that I'm on that path, of course, it's really great. It's really fulfilling and all those kinds of things, but it took a minute to get there. So the key point I'm trying to make is that don't be comparing your insides to someone else's outsides. Everyone looks great on the outside, but you have no idea what someone else is feeling on the inside. The beautiful woman walking down the street that you're attracted to, she could be on her way to go kill herself. You have no idea, right? And the person who looks like they're homeless could be a millionaire who's just having a really fun, easy day. You have no idea what's going on. And they could just be out on their way down to the homeless shelter so they can help for a while. They just don't want people to feel uncomfortable. So he's dressing to make them feel comfortable. It could be anything like that. So embrace the fact that you need your story. Embrace the fact that if you choose to share that publicly, that doing that is going to save someone else's life. It will literally
Yes.
save someone else's life. I mean, that's why Jeremy created this GPS to Life Success, is to save one person's life. And ironically, if the only life this program, this app ever saves is his, fantastic, because it's achieved its job. It's going to do way more than that, obviously. But my point is that writing your story could be the thing, no, will be the thing. Let me rephrase that. Writing your personal story, especially that very first one, is the thing that's going to transform your entire life. It won't do it in a minute, it won't do it in an hour. But as you continue this process of digging deeper, uncovering more and more of the crap that's buried inside there, and we all have dump trucks full of it, the deeper that we dig, the higher the joys we get to experience. It's like that kid that you're talking about, Jeremy, is that he had to dig really, really deep and fight against every instinct in his body and mind that said quit, to keep going. And yet the joy that kid, I get just lit up thinking about that kid at the stop of whatever that obstacle was, going, I did it, because he had to dig deep for that success. It means so much more then. And so will that work for you when you dig deep and do all this difficult stuff, especially in the beginning. You don't get to be 35 years sober without getting to day 1 sober.
Absolutely.
You don't get to year 35 without getting year 1 in. You know, one of my 35th sobriety anniversary was in December. And I wrote a little program way back. So I get this reminder that pops up on my computer. You've now been sober 35 years. I'm like, what? How did that happen? And I always go back to a story that I heard early on is, well, if you don't drink and you don't die, you too can be a long timer in this program. And that's true for your life as well. If you stop doing all the things that are killing you and start embracing the things that are going to empower you, you're going to be really, really successful. It's inevitable. And if you know anything about me, and if you followed any of my videos on my author channel, I'm all about doing things that guarantee my success, making my success inevitable. Habits do that. Routines do that. Writing these stories in this fashion do that. Writing from the outline makes success inevitable. Embrace the process and just know that there's always help here for you if you need some more. That's it.
Absolutely. I love it. And thank you so much, Christopher, for this. And I know I'm excited to work with you more and
Cool.
bringing my story out to people.
That'll be
And
fun.
I'm excited to see all the people that are going to be working through this program, working with you, and getting their stories out, because it's essential. Everybody needs to get their story out. Everybody has
Foundational
something
work.
to be told. And yeah, absolutely. So I'm excited for this. This is going to be fantastic. We are on an incredible journey, and I appreciate you and every single one of you that's going to be along with this journey. It's going to be an amazing ride, and we're going to change the world together.
Awesome, Jeremy. Thanks for being here today. And thank you to everyone else who's watching on the replay. We'll say goodbye for now, and we'll talk to you soon.